This evening, let us savor an excerpt from Kenchen Jigme Punsok's My Heart's Advice. And then let's meditate. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi. Brought to you by the good-hearted folks who help support this channel on Patreon. This evening, we could chant and meditate and enjoy a lesson or two. But first, if you love Star Wars and you wish to meditate as transformatively as Yoda on Dagobah under the guidance of Qui-Gon Jinn, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Good news. If at any point during this evening's live stream you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them to your life, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. Please chant with me. Just as gardens are not to be found growing in mid-air, but all the bounties of the heart... So I edited a word. Let's try this again. All the bounties of the higher realms and liberation will never be yours as long as you lack moral discipline. So with mindfulness, awareness, and caution, control your mind. What an interesting way of spelling the word so. Let's see if I can't fix this bad boy. So, before we explore moral discipline, I gotta beat a dead horse, said the vegan. So here's what we're gonna do. According to the 81 poems of the Tao Te Ching, there are two paths we can traverse. Yang, also known as patriarchy, and Yin, also known as matriarchy. The folks on the path of Yang tend to be rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, competitive, cruel, and very literal-minded. These are the people who just rejoice in being persnickety about rules and regulations, and the more uptight, the better. And as they say down south, bless their hearts. The opposite would be yin, or matriarchy. These people tend to be flexible, loving, laid-back, egalitarian, cooperative, and kind. And like water running downhill, when it hits an obstruction, it flows around it. Similarly, the folks on this path are very groovy. One of these people on this path was the late Karma Chakme Rinpoche, who insisted the essence of morality was just non-violence. That, forget about the hundreds of vows of refuge, pratimoksha, bodhisattva, and tantra samaya. Just practice non-violence. I put it back. That was the morality for bodhicitta. He said for refugees, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, rely upon the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. For bodhicitta, share your positive energy. And for tantric samaya, once again, this is my interpretation of his teaching, rely upon your teachers, example, instructions, and students. Super simple. So those 4 rules can be slipped or can be, we can take that same idea of taking an easy approach. And we can bring that to the eightfold path, which I like to do. 50% of the eightfold path pertains to loving kindness. So the second fold of the eightfold path is right aspiration or wishing love. The third, fourth, and fifth folds would be behaviors: kind communication, kind conduct, and kind commerce. Now, what would kind commerce look like? Well, it's two do-nots and one do. Do not be a controlling Karen. Do not be a competitive Chad. Instead, be a cooperative Bodhisattva. And that is the path of moral discipline in a nutshell. So, I'm going to give you a wee bit of an introduction. This is my latest practice text, or sadhana, if you're nasty. I describe it as Enlightened Wisdom's Easy Tantra. It is adapted and amplified from Khenchen Jigme Punsok's Swift Bestowal of Blessings, a sadhana of the archetype of peaceful and Shri. Now, in all honesty, this is written, his text, bless his heart, was written in highly coded language, which is awesome if you're an elitist who has multiple decades to break the code. But last night, it kind of broke my heart. People were showing up to the live stream, they were practicing, and these poor guys were not comprehending. How could they? I mean, I did my best to throw in with a high school education, fresh off the what's the word I'm looking for? Fresh off the street. Hopefully this will make much more sense. And if not, you're welcome to ask me questions. I live for good Dharma questions. So this past 7 days has been taxing on my disabilities. There is a possibility this will be a shortened practice text. If that happens, it's not because I don't care about your spiritual development, it's simply because I'm playing the cards I'm dealt. Now, let's get to it. Control G, 1, 5. Now I get to realign the display. Let's chant. The basis of the spiritual path is that anything we perceive we could release. This capacity of a central nervous system upon which we rely is reminiscent of Manjushri, the archetype of enlightened wisdom. All beings are tormented by the tyranny of their primal drives, of hating, craving, and clinging as if all they perceived was permanent. Filled with the reflexive desire to help, we play with the mindfulness and meditation that generate kindness-centered spontaneity. You know, that was tough to recite. I'm going to have to... Okay, let's see if this is easier to chant now. Filled with a reflexive desire to help, we play with the mindfulness and meditation that generate kindness-centered spontaneity. Yes, much easier. Hey, if you just joined me, welcome aboard. If at any point during this evening's live stream you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them to your life, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. Let's chant. Transcending all controlling tendencies, we could see the positivity within both the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, as well as in all liberation from it. By enthusiastically releasing all we perceive, be it beginning, ending, blissful, or painful. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we notice during our previous inhalation could feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a beautiful cloudless morn, which, although compelling to the eye, is not graspable to the hand. So now we come to tonight's first of two silent meditations. It's treksha, which translates as slice through. This awareness and letting go's mindfulness and meditation could serve as an antidote to clinging. It is known by many names, such as Zen, Chan, Dhyana, Great Completion Stage Tantra, Mahasati, Sandhi, Ati Yoga, Sutra Mahamudra, Dzogchen, and treksha's slice through. Now, the great irony is this: despite the grandiosity of these names, the technique is uber simple. So let's look at it from three perspectives. First, we'll start with the physical perspective. Do your best to physically emulate the posture described in this statue right here. Number two, as far as respiration, you want to keep your in-breath shorter and sharper. You want your out-breath to be longer and softer. And now the mental aspect. Oh, how nice. Good evening, Adam Hayes, wrestler extraordinaire. So Adam wrote, "It is really easy to get stuck in that rigid style of thinking. I'm glad you bring balance to the force." Oh, bless your heart to you. I send a psychic hug. Okay. As we breathe in, we silently and mentally recite the sensory verb watch. Why do we do that? Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we automatically access our sympathetic nervous system, which has evolved not to concentrate, but to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. But what do we do with all the stuff that we notice? Because some of it's nice, but some of it's painful. Some of it's interesting, but some of it's boring. Some of it's glorious, but some of it's downright grotesque. Simple. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are automatically accessing our parasympathetic nervous system, which has evolved to both physically relax as well as mentally release. So simply by aligning our intention with the silent and mental recitation of these words, or in other words, by silently and mentally reciting these words in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation and our relaxation, it is inevitable that we will make progress on the path. Adam wrote, "What do you do with the stuff? Is a lifetime full of questions rolled into 7 words." It'd be even funnier if Tommy Chong wrote that. Let's see here. And the answer is we make peace with it. We don't punch it in the face. We don't make love to it. We don't push it. We don't clutch it. We make peace with it. We also make peace with the natural emotions we feel about it. It's not our job to try to, let's pretend Let's pretend right now we are sitting in a playhouse watching a musical. It's not terribly appropriate for us to stand up and say, I don't care for that line. Can we edit it? The ushers would show us the door, would they not? The patron's job in a theater is to sit down and shut up and enjoy the show. That's our job too. No, this is not a preliminary practice. This is not a warm-up. This is the primary practice. Everything else is icing. You can practice this exercise standing, walking, sitting, or laying down. The great Tibetan Buddhist saint Dzogchen Rinpoche liked to practice this on his back while gazing at the sky. Welcome to this evening's live stream. If at any point during the live stream you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply it to your life, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. And no, you never have to ask permission to ask a question. Just ask it. I'm going to have to cut this a little short and move right along. Let's chant. Having played with awareness and release, universal compassion spontaneously stirs. The non-graspability we experience as we relax into all that we perceive as the one taste shared by all of reality. Okay, this is too big. This needs to be divided in half. The non-graspability we experience as we relax into all that we perceive as the one taste shared by all of reality, and is represented by the archetype of the enlightened wisdom known. Take two. And is represented by the archetype of enlightened wisdom known as Manjushri. This Yadama archetype's peace, smile, and beauty are reminiscent of perfect health. Glowing orange like clouds at the sunset, his crown, earrings, necklace, armlets, bracelets, and anklets are reminiscent of the six perfections of generosity, nonviolence, patience, enthusiasm, mindfulness, and meditation. His silken crown tie scarf, this is tough to pronounce. His silken crown tie scarf, shawl, skirt, and belt are reminiscent of slice throughs. Transformation of hate, craving, confusion, competition, and clinging. Into the wisdoms of mirror, discernment, basic space, all accomplishment, and equalization. The flaming sword of wisdom held aloft in his right hand, warding off gesture, is reminiscent of wisdom's spontaneous application. The Utpala flower, which supports a book of wisdom and whose stem he holds in the gesture of the Buddha's example, instructions, and students, is reminiscent of acquiring wisdom through mindfulness and meditation, sliced through clinging. The enormous lotus upon which he sits is reminiscent of the wisdom that transcends the mud of life. His white circular cushion is reminiscent of wishing love, and his tucked and extended legs are reminiscent of acting love. In each pore is a paradise with a Buddha and all his disciples, each in the aspect of Manjushri. For we could notice, release, and therefore tame every perception and thought. He is surrounded by all who guide and protect him, just as we are guided by our Trekcho, Tokal, and Tikle, as well as protected by the scented spontaneity they generate. By practicing this noticing and release, we nurture all connection with those from which we have learned that which we call Ati Yoga, Trekcho, or Dzogchen. May the practice and mastery of this awareness and release, mantra contemplation of love and atingo, as well as bliss meditation of good fortune, now pervade our circumstances, bodies, relationships, and minds. Let's go back and take a deeper look at that verse. Well, that's an error, isn't it? Okay. The screen's going to go berserk for a minute or two. All right. In literalist Buddhist Tantra, we invite real or imagined entities into our body and into our environments. When we translate or reverse engineer that metaphor into a more literal phrase, we have two ideas. The first one is this. It's very easy to become sentimental towards one's teacher. We're basically wired for that. But the highest teachers would say, so a low teacher would encourage that sentimentality and perhaps take advantage of it. A higher teacher would say that a teacher is nothing more than an ambassador of the instructions, the Buddha's instructions. Apply the instructions you've received from your teacher, and that's how you're able to connect with them in the most meaningful way. Now, the second idea being explored here is that one of empowerment and protection. But all the protection we require, all the power we require, comes from merely applying these instructions. Our wish is that instead of entities pervading our body and environment, these instructions, the mastery of these instructions, pervade the four bases of mindfulness. Our experience of the circumstantial, the physical, the interpersonal, and the mental. All right. We have gone through the in-depth portion of today. Now let's continue with our chanting. In order to transcend the destructive habits of superstition and perfection, may I habitually play with the union of archetype, mantra, and contemplation. Our archetypes imagined and recalled are reflections of our awareness and love, personal and collective. The finest offering we could make to the Buddhas. Example, instructions, and students, including all teachers, is the enthusiastic practice of this path. To those who have freed us from the tyranny of tradition and fate, revealing the inner source of wisdom, love, and power, we follow your example as an offering of gratitude. Relaxing into the awareness of all circumstances, bodies, relationships, and minds. Oopsie. I'm trying to create consistent notation so that awareness or noticing is always underlined. And same thing with relaxing or releasing, always being bold. They could feel as non-graspable as paradises, Buddhas, mantras, and syllables comprised only of light. Our minds could master this great perfection of awareness and release. May we bring the four bases of mindfulness into the paths of love and letting go through... Okay, this is too much, so I gotta write this down. Okay. May we bring the four bases of mindfulness into the paths of love and letting go through the power of metaphor and mantra. L'chaim. We come now to contemplations, not meditations, but contemplations of love and letting go, which serve as antidotes to hating and are known by many names, such as Generation Stage Tantra, Mantra Yoga, Maha Yoga, Tantra Mahamudra, and Tokal, or Leap Over. Let's begin by leaping over mental competition. May all minds of all beings know... Oopsie, I got ahead of myself. Please excuse me. Let us begin with two secrets. What is the key, or the two secrets, to transforming mindless mantra recitation into transformative mantra contemplation? Number one. As you chant the mantra, physically relax as best you can. Number two, during your inhalation, silently and mentally recite either a wisdom-inducing rhetorical question or a love-inducing intention. This intention is cryptic. Fortunately, we flesh it out in the previous page. May all minds of all beings know be as peaceful and wise as the mind of a Buddha of laws and blessed by a one suitable Siti Clay or Bija mantra. Umara Bhazana Di, Umara Bhazana Di, Umara Bhazana Di, Umara Bhazana Di. Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di. What you'll notice is we got metaphors over here, and we reverse engineer those metaphors into similes over yonder. Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di. Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di. Let us leap over our interpersonal competition. May all relationships of all beings now be as joyful and loving as a real or imagined Buddha's communication symbolized by the seven syllable mantra. Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di. Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di. Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di. Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di. Now let us leap over physical competition. May all bodies of all beings now enjoy the beautiful health depicted in Buddhist thought of the blissful body of a yidam of lower and archetype of enlightenment. Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di. Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di. Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di. Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di. Let us leap over our circumstantial competition. May all circumstances, all lots of all beings now have the safety, good fortune open. As a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, pure land of Avanti. Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di. Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di. Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di. Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di, Umara Bhatsana Di. Welcome to this evening's live stream. If at any point you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, or Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them to your life, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. We switch gears now from leaping over competition to leaping over clinging. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we notice during our previous inhalation, could feel as no graspable as a vast empty void, like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a beautiful cloudless morn, which, although compelling to the eye, is not graspable to the hand. We come to the first vision's leap over circumstantial clinging. What follows now are 8 rhetorical questions, 4 lengthy and 4 concise. How is it that as we inhale all circumstances could appear quite vivid, yet as we relax into our exhalation they could feel as non-graspable as a real or imagined paradise or vati of light? Umara Padzanadi, Umara Padzanadi, Umara Padzanadi, Umara Padzanadi. 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 Let us practice the second vision's leap over physical clinging. How is it that as we inhale all bodies or forms could feel quite sensual, yet as we relax into our exhalation they could feel as non-graspable as a real or imagined octopyadam of light? Umara Padzanadi, Umara Padzanadi, Umara Padzanadi, Umara Padzanadi. 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 Let us practice the third vision's leap over interpersonal clinging. How is it that as we inhale the interpersonal experience of communication or speech could be quite resounding, yet as we relax into our exhalation it could feel as non-graspable as a real or imagined mantra of light? Umara Padzanadi, Umara Padzanadi, Umara Padzanadi, Umara Padzanadi. 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 We come to the fourth and final vision's leap over mental clinging. How is it that as we inhale we could perceive mind's functions quite clearly? So I'm going to stop right here. When we say mind's functions, this is what we mean. Mind's ability to perceive sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, including emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. How is it that as we inhale we could perceive all mind's functions quite clearly? Yet as we relax into our exhalation, they could feel as non-graspable as a real or imagined suitability of light. Omara Bazanadi, Omara Bazanadi, Omara Bazanadi, Omara Bazanadi. Umara Bazanadi, Umara Bazanadi, Umara Bazanadi, Umara Bazanadi. Umara Bazanadi, Umara Bazanadi, Umara Bazanadi, Umara Bazanadi. Umara Bazanadi, Umara Bazanadi, Umara Bazanadi, Umara Bazanadi. We come to a truncated version of our second and final silent meditation of the evening. This practice of bliss and letting go can serve as an antidote to craving and is known by many names, such as completion stage tantra, anu yoga, bindu mahamudra, and Tikle's drop. Consider, if you will, this piece of tantric art. The nudity of the Buddhas reminds us of the need to be vulnerable during mindfulness, the mindfulness that we experience during inhalation. Their translucent or inferred translucence reminds us that as we physically relax during our exhalation, whatever we've perceived during our inhalation could feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void, as non-graspable as the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although is tantalizing to the eye, is intangible to the touch. Their beauty reminds us of the love that is a byproduct of this mindfulness and meditation. The stability wherewith he sits, or with which he sits, reminds us of centeredness, and the abandon with which she sports in tantric union reminds us of spontaneity. to seal or practice with a few chants. In gratitude for that it takes an opportunity to practice them, I offer the awareness and release of all perceptions and thoughts. So perceptions would be sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. And thoughts would be emotions, intentions, reasonings, recollections, and imaginations. All the pleasures of perception all the pleasures of perception and thought I offer upon the altar of awareness and release. In gratitude for Trekcher's awareness and letting go, Tikle's bliss and letting go, and Toko's love and letting go. For the sake of consistency, I'm going to replace the G's with K's, because for some reason that is how the Tibetans pronounce it, or at least my Tibetan teachers. Oh, and then this is going to have to be edited most likely. Although we are wired to notice and release, we forget to do so, no less grasp at illusions of me and mind. Dispensing with defensiveness, I admit that I have failed to rely upon teachers' examples, instructions, and students. Ooh, that's interesting. Okay, let's go over here. Okay. Rather than compound my folly by fighting duality with duality or controlling tendencies with contrivance, I shall rely upon awareness and release the soul panacea. Like a bear in a stream dropping a half-eaten fish for a new one, I choose not to squander my time and energy for ever chasing new practices, remembering that I now have all I need to liberate all beings. May I master bringing all perceptions and thoughts into awareness and release. May I also master mantra contemplation and letting go of the four bases of mindfulness, as if they were as non-graspable as a rainbow, that I may lead all beings everywhere to great enlightenment. To all the perceptions and thoughts I have failed to liberate through the slice through. I offer enthusiasm and compassion for the benefit of happiness of the... I offer enthusiasm and compassion for the benefit and happiness of the teachings and all beings. May my past, present, and future practice of Buddha's Eightfold Pathful enlighten all beings everywhere. May all beings effortlessly master awareness and letting go's view, bliss and letting go's meditation, and love and letting go's conduct. If you feel I have earned it, you could type something in the chat window. You could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could share it with a friend. You could even help support this channel on Patreon. Or not. Either way, in approximately 11 hours, I intend to return to lead tomorrow's early morning meditation. Until then, may you and yours be happy and healthy. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.